I wanted to start this video off by telling you to stop fucking hanging around with victims. And I don't mean, right from the offset, I don't mean people who are victims of domestic violence, emotional violence, or like emotional, PTSD, anybody who's like a victim of like something absolutely horrific, obviously. What I actually mean is stop hanging around people who have a victim mentality, somebody who is perpetually, unable to take accountability, perpetually unable to reflect on their own life and think, what could I have done differently? How have I kind of like put myself in this position? And this is coming from somebody who used to be governed by the victim mentality. And the reason I was governed by the victim mentality was because of my upbringing. I was really quite a negative person. I was a people pleaser. I was self-loathing. I felt a lot of shame because I was taught to feel shame around my authenticity, myself. And I had really low self-esteem. Like, I literally thought I was like low-key a piece of shit up until like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I always thought I was a problem because that's what my caregivers would remind me that I was through their words, through their actions. So I know what it's like to live in this place of like, oh, well, the universe is against me. Everything else is like, never working out in my favor. Like, oh, well, the reason this happened is because this and this, not because of like anything that's within my control. I think I want to say that actually many of us have a lot more control than we think that we do. But irrespective of that, the reason I say it's important not to hang around with these people is because you will end up like having the fucking life sucked out of you. And also, they don't make good friends. People like this can't take accountability. They think that everything is everybody else's problem. They'll never reflect on their own behaviour. They will forever think that their power lies outside of them and therefore they can't possibly take responsibility for anything. And that obviously bleeds into things like friendships and relationships. You will end up being blue in the face trying to explain to them how they've hurt you, how they've made you feel, with no intention of like making them feel bad about it. It's just to kind of like elevate the relationship, and they will never take accountability. They'll always deflect, they'll always project, and they'll always like reject any insinuation that they are somehow, responsible for how they have hurt you. I think about somebody who I work with, and I feel like she's definitely in the depths of the victim mentality, and she accuses and blames everybody else for things that are partly her responsibility. Okay, like she complains about how things never work out for her, how bad things are. She's very negative. Honestly, every time I go to work, and I'm so excited to eventually hopefully quit, because I literally can't work with somebody, or like not for much longer, somebody that literally is perpetually self-loathing, perpetually wallowing in their own self-pity. Like, it's so draining, it's so emotionally exhausting. And I think as well, if you're a people pleaser, you often feel this like obligation to sort of say, oh no, things aren't that bad. But then when you say, oh, things, you see it from this perspective, see it from that perspective, they'll be like, oh no, I want to see it from this perspective. Like, it still doesn't work for me. They'll argue with you because they're committed to this version that is of life, that is like, things don't work out for me. And as somebody, presumably, who is watching this, who wants to elevate, and wants to grow, wants to be the best version of themselves, you need to get the fuck away from people that have this mentality, because they will literally like drain you of all energy, of all your capacity, of all your spirit, of all your passion and creativity, because they're committed to this victimhood. And these people never move on. They never, they'll kind of wallow on one particular thing. Oh, well, the reason I can't find a boyfriend is because this happened to me, and this happened to me, and this happened to me. Okay, those things are valid. Awful things happen to everybody. Like, everybody's been through shit. Everybody's been through trauma. And I wholeheartedly believe that it is a choice to elevate. It is a choice to not perpetuate the same patterns that you have had placed upon you. Okay? Like, all of us have experienced trauma in some regard, whether it's complex, whether it's PTSD, whether it's just like, some kind of like upsetting incident / series of incidents. Everybody's gone through shit. And everybody makes a choice. Am I going to perpetuate this? Am I going to like think that things don't work out for me? Or am I going to make a different choice? And I don't really have an awful lot of time for people that make the former choice. I have a lot of time for people that make the latter choice, that choose to like be the version that they want to be of themselves, and like elevate and like grow and heal, because they know that they don't have to follow the path that perhaps they were set upon following. They can change their trajectory at any point. I think about the fact that some people I know in my life, they have such a victim mentality that they've literally never moved on. For example, I knew somebody who had a partner who was like really abusive, like really awful man, like realistically he was. But then for the rest of that time, so like this happened maybe in their 30s, for the rest of that time, up until like now, 30 years later, they still are hyperfixated on the fact that they never got over that person. They've never really been able to date because they're forever like talking about the fact that, you know, this awful thing happened to them 30 years prior. Oh, the reason I can't open up, the reason I can't attract people is because, you know, this awful thing happened to me. No, bitch, the reason you can't attract the right person is because you are, you know, that is your sole focus. You're so consumed and focused on the fact that this awful thing happened, so you can't move on. And people can sense that. People are like, oh, I don't know if I want to get involved with that. You know, it's awful that it happened to them, but if it's still like basically your identity 30 years later, like, you've wasted 30 years of your life not enjoying the most gorgeous parts of what life can offer because you're committed and you've solidified that like awful incident or the series of incidents into your identity, and it becomes part of you. And I think, you know, that is draining for people around you, because you're like, you know, they'll give you advice, or they'll try and say, oh, maybe look at it from this perspective, or maybe like this could happen, or things do work out for you. But if you have this negative mindset that like everything bad is always happening, you're always commenting on it and you're always focusing on it and putting all your attention on it, you're going to drain the fuck out of everybody around you and yourself. You know, like it doesn't get you anywhere. And I think a lot of people, and I think this is like the main point I want to make, is that it's actually about control. Because while somebody's in the victim mentality, while somebody can always blame everything bad that happens to them on everything else and everybody else, they don't have to take responsibility for actually making their life better. And it's actually a very safe place for the ego, because it means that, you know, you're not having to face your trauma, you're not having to face your shadow, you're not having to face those parts of you, especially if you've been in this victimhood for like a long time. You don't have to grieve all that time you lost while like being negative, being in that victim mentality, not enjoying the most gorgeous parts of life. I know that even for those like early parts of my 20s, and teenager years, I grieved that time, even though it was like probably about 5 years max. I grieved that time when I had the victim mentality, because like I wasn't getting the most out of life. But thank God I caught it at like, you know, 23, 24, when I started to really probably go for my healing journey. That it meant that I wasn't grieving so many years that I lost to being in this place where I thought that good things didn't happen to me, good things wouldn't happen to me, I was a waste of space, I wasn't good enough, my self-esteem was low. Like, I can imagine it's almost too painful years in. There's this sort of like sunk cost fallacy. It's like if you were to open that, it'd be like Pandora's box of like all this time where you were in that victim mentality. And people don't want to open that box, because realistically, if they did, it would just be too much. It'd be way too painful to think that they lost so many years to something that they could have like integrated, rather than made their identity and made them, you know, restricted them and blocked them and limited them in going for what they really wanted. Like, imagine going 30 years and you've wasted 30 years of your life not dating, not having fun, not enjoying life, because you're committed to always being the victim of somebody who hurt you 30 years ago. It's unfathomable. I don't know how people, I can see why people avoid it. And this is the thing, you know, your ego's safe there. Your ego is safe when you can always blame everything on everybody else, or be like, well, that the reason why that didn't happen is because the reason I didn't go for my dreams, the reason why I never became an artist, that never became an entrepreneur, never went for what I really wanted, was because of other things, of other external factors. I know I even did it kind of like a couple of years ago. I was like, the algorithm's against me, it doesn't like me. And then now that I'm like all more authentic and becoming more and more myself every day, the algorithm is like, it loves me because I've like released and lost my attachment to the algorithm and like whether or not it pushes me or not. Like I definitely had that victim mentality, like even at 26, like being like, oh, yeah, I'm just not growing because the algorithm's against me. No, it's not that. It's because it was waiting for me to be more authentic. I wasn't as authentic as I could have been then. I was like still restricting myself. And now that I am, I realise, oh, it was always me. I had control. But I think it's easier to outsource when things don't work or things that work in your favour. It's very, very easy to outsource. Oh, well, that's just because of this. That's because of that. Then you don't have to take accountability. Then you don't have to improve. You don't have to grow. You don't have to face difficult things about yourself. It's a very safe place for the ego if you never have to think about the fact that you have a huge amount of control over what happens to you. Or not even what happens to you, but how you respond to things and how life works out. I do think it's about control, and it's like a place of safety for the ego, because the ego then doesn't have to hold itself accountable for the fact that it did waste time, or it did have limiting beliefs that restricted you, or it did hold you back. If you can always outsource it, then you can just let go. And it's like, well, my dreams never happened because of everybody else, of everything else. It means you don't have to take accountability for going for your goals, because you know what happens when you go for your goals? It forces you to heal. It forces you to face yourself. It forces you to face those ugly or shadow parts of yourself that you are too scared to look at, to face, to integrate. People are avoiding themselves their entire lives. And the cost of that is that they never self-actualize, they never fulfill their dreams. And the problem with being around those people is it bleeds onto you as well. I'm sick of being around people. I honestly will not be friends with people. It's same with like insecure people. It's giving the same energy. I will not be around insecure people. And the reason I say insecure people, I don't mean everybody has insecurities, right? But some people let those insecurities bleed onto other people. They take out their resentment on other people. They blame other people. They're jealous of other people. They're conniving. They're envious of other people. And it obviously is for detriment of the other person. Fuck off. I don't want to be anywhere near you. I don't want to be around those people. It will drain your energy like you will not believe. There are so many people with friendships where people have the victim mentality. You pour into like giving them advice, giving them reassurance, and then they'll go and like continue to perpetuate the same harmful behaviors. They'll continue to like stay in this like wallowing place of self-pity. It's fucking ugly. It's fucking ugly. And being around that energy will feel like you are walking an uphill battle with your friends. It will bleed onto you. And this is what I've realised with, going for my dreams and manifesting great friendships, manifesting great relationships with people, is that those who are self-loathing and self-pitying will drag you down. And it's usually like an emotional thing. You're having to provide and offer all this emotional labour. Every time you meet them, every time you see them, you're having to not only prep to meet them because they're so negative, but you're also going to have to like emotionally prep or exist in sort of doing a lot of emotional labour every time you see them. And that drains you over time. It drains your subconscious, and it means you can't give that energy to your goals, your dreams, really great relationships where it's reciprocal. And then it's like a parasitic relationship when somebody is in this victim mentality. And I also think that when you're in that victim mentality, that kind of like where they're rejecting their dreams, where they're rejecting but they're like repelling like their desires when they're in that state, that will bleed onto you as well. When you're in the victim mentality, I know somebody online, well actually a couple people, and they're kind of always on their stories posting about, oh, I don't get enough followers, or oh my, I'm not getting the growth that I want, or they'll be like, oh, I just really want a girlfriend or a boyfriend, like I'm not getting those things, like I don't understand why, like what's wrong with me, what's the problem with me? How is that attractive? how is that magnetic? How is that like attractive to your goals or like a potential partner? Self-loathing is literally so unattractive. Insecurity is so unattractive. You know, I went shopping with a sort of a new friend, I guess, or like I was still figuring out the friendship. Went shopping with them, and then in the mirror, as I walked past, they kind of like shuffled and like looked at themselves in the mirror, and they're like, oh God, I look so horrible. And I'm like, what do you want me to say to that? Because like, all you're fishing for is for me to be like, oh my God, no, you don't, you look stunning, you look amazing. I was just like, oh right, no, that's not true. And left it, because I was like, I'm not going to invest my emotional energy when you, first of all, don't believe me anyway, not going to do anything about it. You want to wallow in self-pity because it gives you purpose, and it gives you like it gives you some kind of attention for a split second. A little bit. No, like honestly, self-loathing, self-disdain is it repels your manifestations, it repels your desires, and it's something that you don't want to affect you. And I could make it like another video realistically about how to get out of this, because like I definitely, if you do want that, comment down below. I definitely did get out of it myself, but it's mostly just reprogramming your brain. Every time you have a thought like that, like a limiting belief or the universe is conspiring against me, you let yourself feel it, obviously initially, but then you reframe it and you come up with a new phrase in your head, you write it down or you say it in your head, you coach yourself, you let your inner coach instead of an inner critic, you fuck the inner coach take over and be like, hang on, is that true? No, it's not. We need to reformulate this. Okay, actually the universe is conspiring for me. I am the creator of my own reality, like I'm beautiful, whatever. Honestly, the thing that helped me get out of it is fucking forcing myself to reprogram my brain. And obviously initially you don't believe yourself, but the more you do it, the more you reprogram your brain to genuinely believe that you are a fucking icon. And over time you build up and you build up, and obviously you're going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. Like some days you're going to be feeling really confident about yourself, other days you're not, and you still have to remain on top of it on those days. You really have to push through. Come on, no Hattie, like you are beautiful, you are amazing, you are talented. Work through it, write it down, journal about it. That's how you overcome it, and it takes time, and it's going to be hard because you're not going to believe yourself initially. But I could do like a whole video on that, but that's the crux of it. Also, if you go ahead and check out my People Pleaser to Powerhouse course, that is actually covers 2 modules: how to go from your inner critic to inner coach and like develop self-compassion and therefore become less insecure, therefore escape the victim mentality. If this is something you're interested in, go and check out the link, because this is going to be for you, that course. So just being able to, you know, clock when you're being negative or when you're self-loathing, and like reframing it. You know, let those feelings come up, but then don't let it become your identity, or don't let it kind of like embody you, or what's the word? Don't let it, oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Don't let it define you. So yeah, I think just if you sense that energy from anybody, this sort of self-loathing, like self-hatred energy, bye, because it will bleed onto you, and you do not have time. You actually don't. You cannot afford, you do not have time in this life to be around people that drain you. It is ugly energy. It will like drain you of your emotional labor, having to like comfort them when they're not actually intending to do anything about it. Like there's a difference between somebody like confiding in you and being like, this shitty thing happened, like I just want to, you know, it might lower your vibration like when they talk about it, because obviously it's like more of like an occasional thing rather than like a constant thing. If you're constantly having to like big your friend up even though they have no intention of believing you or like doing anything about it, it's a waste of fucking energy. Get away from those people. No, I don't have time for it. It's a choice when somebody at an adult age continues to see themselves as a victim, continues to lack responsibility or not take responsibility. It's not attractive in a friend, because they'll never, you know, say if they've hurt you, they'll always be the sort of person that'll be like, oh, but I didn't intend it, I didn't mean it. Shut the fuck up. Impact isn't the same as intention. Do you know what I mean? Like you're forever going to be like either treading on eggshells, or you're going to be doing all the emotional labor, or, you know, if they hurt you, they're not going to take accountability. Like how is that productive for a healthy relationship? How is that attractive? It's just not. All right. So no, anybody that defines themselves completely by their trauma or bad things that happened to them, and they made that choice, bye. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, it's not appealing. That's my little 2 pence. I feel like I always say that. But if you want a video on how to like overcome the victim mentality, let me know. As usual, this video is sponsored by my People Pleaser to Powerhouse course, which I already mentioned. So it really just takes you from being somebody who's a people pleaser, struggles to advocate for themselves, struggles to have self-esteem, and just struggles to have boundaries, basically. And I'll take you through this journey of like being able to set boundaries with boundary scripts, to unmasking, becoming your more authentic self, so maybe you can show up online, in your friendships, in your relationships, at work, to then becoming the most magnetic version of yourself in week 4. Like, I've done this transformation myself. Like, I've literally documented how I went from like being this like version of myself that was like such a people pleaser, never put myself first, always struggled to like set boundaries and get what I wanted from life, to become this most magnetic, authentic, like, I'm so happy in myself, like, version of myself. So if you want to experience the same transformation, go ahead and click on the link below. You're not going to be disappointed. You're not. But anyway, with that, comment down below your thoughts, what you think about the victim mentality, victimhood, like your experience of other people or yourself. I want to know. But anyway, with that, have a fantastic remainder of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.